What's up, everybody? We are back. It is the Pesce Lanzillotta team podcast. Nothing but the hits. Nothing but the hits. Sound like I'm on a smooth jazz channel or something like that.
I'm going to miss your calling.
Yeah. So here we are. It's April 19th. We're still in an extremely tight market. It doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon.
Third week in a row doing the podcast. I think that might be a record.
No, we've done
3 weeks in a row.
I think so. Yeah,
maybe.
But this is the new commitment. We're going to be here much often and early and often, and we're going to bring content every week. So we were actually just talking before the show started. Mike and I both had the Rona. I had it back in January. I'm not sure when you had it.
End of January, I think.
January. Yeah, you probably ended up getting it from the team. Mm-hmm. What was your experience like with it?
It was, it wasn't terrible. I had one, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember really, but I had one night. Yeah, I started feeling it like 4 or 5 p.m. And just not feeling right. I think I was like tired, backache. And then I had a slight fever. The next day I woke up with a fever and I think the chills, and I was really tired. I slept that whole next day. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I was pretty much fine. I might have had a very low grade fever, like 99, but I think the fever was gone. I wasn't as tired. I had like backache, back fatigue for a while.
Did you?
That lasted for a while.
Lower back?
Lower back. Yeah, lower back.
It might have been kidney, no?
Maybe. How do you distinguish if your kidney's hurting versus your back?
I don't know. I'm not a medical professional.
Right. So I think for me, that was it. What about you?
So with me, it was interesting. I hadn't gone out in a long time, right? And finally, my friends are like, my college buddies, they're like, hey, let's go grab dinner, like a holiday dinner. So we go out, and again, I didn't spend Christmas with my family. I don't think I spent New Year's Eve with anybody. It was a very, very quiet holiday season. I don't even think we did. No, we did do.
This is because you're trying to stay safe.
We did do Thanksgiving.
And not expose yourself.
Well, if you remember, just a few months back, there was a pretty significant spike, like over that winter season, right?
I feel like everyone had it.
The peak was the election, which is was the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. So I go to Bryant and Cooper with my buddies. It's like January 2nd.
I like how that's going out, by the way. Like I haven't gone out in a while, and I finally went out. You went out to
because
dinner.
Think about it. Like, when's the last time? Well, listen,
it's just a different definition of going out.
Well, we don't go out like we're kids anymore, right? We're not fist bumping anywhere. But if I look at the calendar right now, it was definitely January 2nd was, I think, a Saturday night. Yep, January 2nd, Saturday night. Mm-hmm. So we go out January 2nd. We get dinner. We walk into Bryant and Cooper, which happens to be easily one of the best restaurants on Long Island. And the first thing I noticed on the first one there, I'm like, wow. Place was packed, packed to the gills. And it's not like it was like a young crowd. It was the typical crowd there. Like the Bryant and Cooper crowd is a very older, sophisticated business crowd, well-to-do people. So it was, I would say the age demographic there was like 40 to like 60 and maybe even older. Like it was... So complete disregard for the coronavirus and anything else that went with it, right? So immediately they're not, and at that time I think we were at like 40% capacity or 25% capacity, something ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Not a single table was empty, right? Packed to the gills. And whatever, we figure we'll get over it. We'll just do the dinner. We had a good time, sat down, followed the guidelines. The next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So just a few days later, so that was Saturday night, Tuesday, my sinuses started to get like jam packed. Mm-hmm. Like my head, I just felt like I had swollen sinuses. And I'm like, it's nothing. It's a winter cold, right? Mm-hmm. The next day, I wake up and I've got like this ever so slight tickle in the back of my throat. Mm-hmm. So now it's Wednesday and I have this ever so little slight tickle in the back of my throat. And again, I brush it off as, my sinuses were clogged. Maybe it's like some kind of postnasal drip. Mm-hmm. No big deal. It's all good. So then Thursday, I started to get a headache. And I still had that little itch in the back of my throat, which I was still chalking up to sinuses. And then at that point, I think I started to feel like maybe something's up. And for whatever reason, we didn't come in that Friday, right? What was that reason?
Because Melina from the team, we had
Melina
a team
from the
meeting.
team was confirmed she had it.
I think it was we had a team meeting Thursday,
Yep.
meeting.
And
she
she
called
had
in and
gotten
says,
it.
hey guys, I don't feel good. I'm
Yeah.
getting tested.
Yes. So then everyone just kind of scattered.
Right.
So then that Friday night, I still don't feel good all day. I have a headache. And then we were going back and forth where we got that test at whatever that robotic thing was.
Something, yeah. I
It
forget
was
the
the
name.
Rover or whatever.
Yeah, Rover Health or something.
Rover Health, yeah. So
we only got tested, though, because Melina said she got tested.
Correct.
Were it not
Correct.
for that, you probably wouldn't have gotten tested.
I would not have gotten
I know
tested.
I wouldn't have.
Well, I'll tell you so Friday night comes and I've got this headache and I'm like, wow, this is getting worse and worse and worse. I had like a headache for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then boom, all of a sudden my hands and my feet got freezing cold.
Really?
Like that I've never, just frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Frozen, okay? So immediately I popped some Tylenol and went right to sleep. I knew I had spiked the fever, and that's when I said to myself, oh shit, you probably have corona.
Mm-hmm.
So the next morning at 9 o'clock, we go to the testing site. I get tested.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually one of the most, kind of like one of the scariest moments for me was I'm sitting in my office and you send me a text message, all good.
Because we got tested at the
We
same
got
time.
tested. Like you were in line, I was right after you. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I should get my results back any minute now. And then like 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by, 20 minutes, a half hour, 45, an hour. And I'm like, I got fucking corona.
Yeah.
They're like running this thing through the fucking machine. They're like double checking it. I got the Rona. So then I get a phone call 5 minutes later that said you have the coronavirus. And I said, oh, that's fucking fantastic. So then I just basically hunkered down upstairs, and then my fever basically bounced between like 99.5 and 100.5 for like 4 or 5 days after that. I actually got up to take a walk outside. This was where we're now looking back at it. Like I was sick. I must have been sick. I did 2 laps around my backyard.
Right.
Walked in 2 circles around my backyard. And by the time I got done with the second lap, I had a migraine headache, and I had to go upstairs. I fell asleep for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Knocked me out. And then the weirdest thing for me was not realizing that I had lost my smell.
Yes, you don't notice it right away.
You didn't notice that. So it's interesting. When you lose your taste, you expect to, you actually catch it because you expect to taste something when you eat it. Right? You put something in your mouth, and the direct result of that is you taste it. With smell, you could just go through your day not realizing you're not smelling anything.
Yes, yeah.
So it was like a few days later. Like I was downstairs with a mask on. I was like symptom free. I was feeling good. So I don't even know exactly when I lost my smell, but I'm downstairs cooking a steak, and I realized I don't smell anything. And then my wife opened up like a jug of cinnamon and put it under my nose. And she goes, you don't smell that? I said, nope, I smell nothing. But fast forward, it's April 19th. I still don't smell everything.
Yeah, my smell's definitely messed up. I noticed, I lost my smell too. Same thing. I didn't notice I lost it. And then I actually noticed it was gone because I couldn't smell my son's, who was, a year old. I couldn't smell his shit diapers.
Yeah, the poop.
Yeah, so... But yeah, it's still messed up. I like coffee, ground coffee beans, still have like a very weird smell to them. And there's just certain things I know I'm not smelling. Like I could tell it's just dulled.
I smelled smoke for a while.
I smell smoke now. That's scary
not
too when
now,
you don't smell smoke.
Well, okay, so there's difference. Like you don't smell like a burning toast in the microwave, but there's this smell.
Could we just? How do you make your toast?
In a toaster. Sorry, not a microwave. There's this smell that like stuck with you. Like the most the thing that I like correlate it to the most is like a cigarette. Every now and then, like I used to smoke years ago, and you'd smoke a cigarette and you'd get like this smell of smoke up your nose, and it would make you like your nose wants to like reject the smell, like it won't even let you breathe in.
Yeah.
Like and that would like happen to me with nothing around.
Right.
No smoke around. So dude, it's different. I mean, it's different. And I actually went to the doctor 3 months after the fact, a few weeks ago, and I had all the blood work done because, you know, after you deal with something like that, you're kind of like, you know, maybe I should just get like checked out.
You get so
make sure
freaked out because
good.
all the news and everything.
Well, she said that I still have the antibodies, and my titer for the antibody was very high. So she said it's likely I had a very high viral load. So according to her, I was very sick. No lung issues though for me.
No, I didn't either.
No lung issues for me. No coughing. Meanwhile, Rob had a lot of lung issues. My buddy Fish has corona right now as we speak.
How's he doing?
Fine. He was drinking Johnny Walker Blue on the couch.
Really?
No, nothing.
And he's not like a beacon of health. No
Nope.
offense to Fish.
No, not at all. But he's clearly got a strong immune system.
Yeah.
It's not doing anything to him. But I wonder if I got to talk to him. I wonder if he lost taste and smell. I never lost taste. Taste got distorted for me a little bit.
I don't think I lost taste ever.
I was tasting my coffee. Coffee tastes like soap to me for a little while.
Yeah, that's not good.
But that's it. But it is different. Like a normal virus, you get sick, you spike that fever, you get over the hump, you're home free.
Yeah, I was thinking about though, like most adults don't really get sick. Like how often other than that, I don't remember the last time I got sick.
There's one time as an adult that I remember getting sick. And it was like when I was like 22, 23.
Right.
And that's it.
That's because your immune system's built up. You've gotten the flu, strep throat, you've gotten all that stuff as a kid. Your immune system is built up, right? But if you remember, because I was thinking about this, the first time you got all that stuff, like my kids, they got the flu, you know, not recently, but years back. When they got the flu, they were like, they slept all day. They were wiped out for like even like the next week. It took them a full week just to get back to normal in terms of energy and stuff.
Yep.
So while we were saying, because at the time we're like, wow, it's really weird. Like this thing just lingers. Like, is that because it's really weird, it just lingers? Or is it just because we forgot that's how it is to be sick with something new, and that's just a normal reaction to it?
Could be.
You know what I mean?
Could be. I mean,
it definitely was weird.
Different.
But I'm thinking, like, if you had the flu wipes you out. Like the flu, you can't even, you sleep. If you go,
I don't think I've ever had the flu.
Right. So if you have, I mean, you wouldn't be able to go for a walk around your backyard. You'd be sleeping all day. You'd be really sick.
Maybe even more sick. You'd feel maybe more sick. I don't know. It's different in every person. It's very strange. Very strange.
For sure.
That was my little bout with it. Now I will tell you, here we are in April. This past weekend, I'm on the soccer field. There's kids everywhere. There's parents out now. We're really on the other end of it.
Which is good. Were they at the soccer field, the parents and everything wearing masks?
They wear masks. Yeah. I mean, I have my mask. Listen, I'm outdoors. I'm 6 feet from everybody. I take my mask down. I'm not.
Yes.
It's getting to be a little insane.
I read Mississippi and Texas, which removed their mask mandates something like 3 weeks ago or a month ago.
Everything dropped.
They have their lowest COVID levels they've had.
Yeah, and Fauci doesn't have an explanation for it.
I mean, listen, I'm not if you want to wear a mask, it's fine. But if masks worked, then we wouldn't have had the numbers and the cases and everything in my mind.
I think it's a weather thing. I think it's cold. I think we'll see another spike of it in the winter.
Right.
I don't know that it'll be out of control.
But we can't have masks every winter. It's crazy.
I don't know.
I think the kid thing is what forcing it on kids is what messes me up. Like you read in the paper that kids have the mental health issues are at all-time highs, whether it be anxiety, depression, suicide, right? And then you think how much, now part of that, you know, obviously because they're, you know, they're secluded, but also, you know, when kids go to school, it's like you wear a mask, like you can't see your friends smile. You can't see the teachers smile. Like imagine just being a kid and looking and not seeing facial expressions.
It's 100%.
It's gotta fuck with you.
It's shaping them and molding them differently than what they should be to a degree.
Right. That's where I have an issue with
I
the
will
mask.
say though, we were playing soccer this week, and the kids they don't wear masks on the soccer field.
Same thing. My kids had baseball and soccer this week, which is a whole just the sidebar.
Yeah,
Like you don't realize what a commitment
busy
these sports are. I was
busy.
Paulie had a baseball game Saturday at 9:30, and then Bo's at like 11:30. So I was literally on the baseball field watching 4 and 5-year-olds play t-ball for like 5 hours Saturday morning, and then soccer Sunday.
Yep. So my little Ron's like every Tuesday, Thursday, and then once on the weekend, there's a game on Saturday. So it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then Lily is practice on Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
and then a game on Sunday.
Yeah, my kids are starting to get really busy. They're both in soccer, they're both in t-ball. They go to swim once a week. Paulie has speech twice a week. It's starting to get to the point where like I can't even imagine once the third is old enough to start having activities.
Yeah, you gotta hire
A
someone.
full-time job is just going to be getting them around to and from.
Yeah, that's why you gotta wonder like how you do have to wonder how to like couples where both parents are working do it.
Yeah. Well, the weekday stuff, like the weekend stuff, most people aren't working on weekends, right? So I understand that. But like, yeah, like they have soccer practice today at 4. If both parents are working, like, nowadays it's different, but at 4 p.m., usually both parents are going to be at work.
Yeah. That's why it's a tough racket for sure. Tough racket, and you don't want to miss it because it only comes around once, right?
Yeah.
So think about what we do, right? How on demand we are sometimes when it comes to real estate, right? I'm sure you get a phone call that someone wants to see a multi-million-dollar listing on a Saturday, right, when your son's game is. So how do you handle something like that?
It's tough. I mean, my Saturday, I had a clear Saturday, and then Saturday afternoon I ended up having to do 2 showings. Same thing. If someone wanted to see at 4:30, 11 Carmen Road, Dix Hills, a $1.8 million listing, I mean, what am I going to say? No?
Build it around your schedule as best you can, I guess.
Yeah.
That's all you can do, right?
And then sometimes you try and make one day, like, all right, I'll throw everything in. I'll tell Sam, like, listen, I got to work one day this weekend. What do you prefer? She'll be like, work Sunday. So I'll be like, all right, so I'll throw everything to Sunday, and Saturday I'll make sure. Because even if it's just a few hours on a Saturday or Sunday, it's still you're still working that day. So sometimes it's nice just to have the one day off and then work a full day the next day, as opposed to like just 2 or 3 hours each day.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's definitely a topic of discussion because at the end of the day, if you're successful but unhappy, or if you're successful and your home life is suffering, it's definitely not success, right?
Well, that brings us to a good segue to the topic of conversation. How do you become sustainable in this business?
Well, that's a loaded question. I think in the beginning, everyone starts off running around like a chicken with their head cut off. I think you got to take everything you got coming at you, and I think that there's a process. You got to pay your dues, right? Now, whatever those dues are, you got to pay them. That could be, I think for your typical real estate agent, paying dues is a 5 to 7 year commitment. And I'll tell you why. The national statistic is that every 5 to 7 years, people sell a home, right? So the people you're selling homes to today, there's a high probability that in 5 to 7 years, they sell that house and they move into something different.
That number always surprised me. I feel like it's just not a lot of time. I would think it'd be a little bit longer.
It nailed me right on the head with my first house.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about it, right? I bought my house at 25. I ended up my second house at 30.
Same with me. Yeah, no, same with me. It's just surprising because when you buy a home, you're thinking it's going to be for a longer term period.
Yeah, like right now in my house, I'm thinking this is going to be my forever home. I might be out of there in 2 years, 3 years.
How long have you been there already?
Probably going on 4 years.
All right, so another 3.5 years would be 7.
3 to 4 years, something like that, I think.
So it might play out again.
Yeah, it might. I mean, listen, you never know. I think what people don't realize is 5 to 7 years is a very long time. There's a lot that changes in 5 to 7 years. 5 to 7 years ago, you had no kids.
In 5 to 7 years, I'm gonna no longer be in my 30s. I'll be in my 40s.
It'd be a much different time in your life.
5 years ago, no kids. 7 years ago, not married.
Really? Yeah, I
seven
think
years
that's
later.
both of us. I think that's both
So
of
in
us.
7 years, we got married and each had 3 kids.
Well, my daughter's 6, so no, that's not possible. I was married 7 years ago.
And you've had 3 kids.
Yeah. I was on 7 years ago right now. I was on my honeymoon, probably.
So in 7 years, you went from not married to married, 3 kids. So a lot can change.
A lot changes, yeah, and in a different house. Whoa.
Where'd you go, Ron?
Yeah, 7 years.
All right, but so you were explaining that you think it takes 5 to 7 years.
I think it takes 5 to 7
become
years
what,
to
sustainable
become,
or build the actual business.
So here's the deal. You need to hunt business to get started, right?
Mhm.
So hold on, let me get situated. You need to hunt business for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is hunting business? Hunting business is your lifestyle. This is why getting into this business in your 20s is like key. It's like the most important piece to the puzzle, I think. Because I think starting this later on in life, if you have a family around you, very hard to do. But
It's hard to work-life balance.
But I think for the first 5 to 7 years, you are making phone calls from 8 to 11 in the morning. You're calling FSBOs, expired, circle prospecting.
Mm-hmm.
You're also making phone calls from 4 to 7 at night.
Mm-hmm.
FSBOs, expireds, circle prospecting.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just loading up your database. You're doing business with people. You're closing deals. You're taking those people and you're putting them back into your database to remarket to them,
Mm-hmm.
to stay on them, right, and touch them every now and then. You're circle prospecting your database to get on the phone with these people and ask for a referral every 3 to 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
right, of all past clients. Now, when that client database gets to a certain level,
Mm-hmm.
that's when the referrals start to take over your prospecting business. Now, I think to a certain degree, you always have to be prospecting. If you're not filling that funnel, you're dying.
I agree with that.
But I think when does the business start to get easier? It's at the 5 to 7 year mark. That's when all of your previous buyers and sellers, so long as you've done the right thing and stayed in touch with your database, that's when that business all starts remarketing itself to you.
So how do you make it to the 5 to 7 year mark, though? Because that's a long time to even make it till that point.
Well, I mean, maybe the best way, and I think that path is different for everybody. So I think for us, I think you and I, we had a lot of natural born sales skills, to be honest. I think we're better than the average salesperson. We're also corporate trained salespeople, so we understand sales. Mm-hmm. So when we got into this, we understood a lot of things that a lot of people don't understand right out of the get-go, out of the gate. So it depends where you are, how much money you have behind you, right? And that all depends upon where you begin. If you're right out of the gate and you've got a lot of learning to do, honestly, best thing for you to do is join a team.
I agree.
Join a team, be a sponge, sit all the open houses, just get to know people, get belly to belly with people, learn how to talk to people, learn how to influence people, learn how to connect with people, learn your geographic territory, where you are. Like Long Island, there's so much to it. You've got the South Shore. There's a certain buyer for the South Shore. There's, boating on the Great South Bay that's different than the North Shore. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You have the beaches. Everything is different. There's all these idiosyncrasies and things to learn along the way that if you have the knowledge of where you are, and then you have the sales skills, you're ready to be your own agent. And then from there, you've got at least 5 to 7 years.
Well, the other thing is too, if you need to have the lifestyle of the ability to be patient until it actually all kicks in. Because if you need money from day one because your mortgage is due or your bills, whatever, to your point of starting in your 20s versus your 30s, it's not, there's no company writing you a weekly paycheck.
Yeah.
So you need to set yourself up, whatever that means, so you can actually make it through that initial period.
Kevin O'Leary has a fantastic He has a fantastic quote about salaries. He says, I'll find it. Give me a second. I'll find it. A salary is the drug they give you to forget your dreams. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're 100% right. You need to have your obligations have to be low. I don't see a situation where you could take a guy who has a minimum requirement and that person can do this job tomorrow.
No.
I just don't see that being a possibility. Unless the wife works, the wife's salary is sufficient to carry the household, and then they have benefits.
You need to be able to carry yourself with no income, I think, for 6 months.
Yep. 100%.
And then even after that, it's not like you're making a ton of money each month, but at least you'll
get by. You'll just get by, and then eventually the deals start to snowball. You have one closing a month, mm-hmm. 2, then 3, then 4, and then
right.
the money is endless.
Right.
But and I think I don't think there's any business that rewards somebody for having stuck with it quite like this one.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think if you stick with anything long enough, you're going to be successful.
I don't know about that either. I disagree. So I know a lot of people that stick with a job and it never pays them more.
Well, that's like the salary
with
thing.
This, it's exponential, in my opinion.
Well, this is you're a business owner. So I think if you start your own business and you don't quit, I do think
how many corporate America jobs you get to a certain plateau and then they start cutting you.
Right. Well, that's where the Kevin O'Leary quote comes in. The salary is what they pay you to forget your dreams. If you start living off that salary, meaning whatever, make up numbers. You make $10,000 a month, and every month you spend that $10,000 because of living expenses. Then you're essentially being paid to forget your dreams. The salary model works is if your living expenses are $5,000 a month and you take that extra $5,000 and you save it and you slowly invest it into whatever, stock market, real estate, anything, starting your own business on the side. Mm-hmm. To me, that's the only way that makes sense. Yeah, otherwise you're basically a slave. I mean, they're paying you, but it's slave labor still in my mind.
Yep. So again, you're a young guy. You don't have anything you need to anyone you need to answer to. You could live without making a lot of money for a long time. First thing you do, you get on a team. You learn. Mm-hmm. You stay the course. You sit open houses. You get to know people. You get to know the environment. Then when you're ready to break off on your own, you start. You grind every day for 5 to 7 years, and hopefully by the time that 5 to 7 year mark hits, you're like 30 to 32 years old. Yeah, and then that's when the money starts to flow.
Well, not even in my mind. Even if you started right out of college, which is a whole nother discussion of if college is even worth it. But 5 to 7 years, you're still 26 to 28, mm-hmm. which is huge.
Now, how, in your opinion, what we also both know you have to quote unquote list to exist. It's all about listings, right?
Right.
I believe that wholeheartedly, but I do believe buyers are just as important because we're seeing it right now in market shifts. You need to be versatile is really what it is. I don't think it's necessarily that you have to list to exist. I think you need to be able to do both things. You need to be an agent who knows how to work with 3 to 5 buyers at a time and be moving them off your plate with accepted offers, mm-hmm. and at the same time have a few listings and be able to get those sold as well. If you could multitask and not pigeonhole yourself into one or the other, I think that's where the real success lies too.
I agree. Well, first of all, I think it's stupid to pigeonhole yourself to one or the other because it's buyers are 50% of the business, sellers are 50% of the business. So if you pigeonhole yourself to one, you're missing out on literally 50% of the potential mm-hmm. revenues that mm-hmm. could come from your business. So it doesn't make sense to pigeonhole yourself. I think to me, you have to list to exist. The reason that is because that's it's about leverage. You can leverage a listing
Mm-hmm.
in terms of, so once you get a listing, your sign's in the ground. Other people are seeing it, right? It's like a storefront you just opened up on that block in that neighborhood where other people are seeing it. So other homeowners in the area are seeing it.
Yep.
Yeah, if you do open houses, you put open house signs in the neighborhood, right? They're seeing your name, you're building your brand.
What's the address of our first listing?
Our first listing was in Port Jeff. I'm drawing a blank. Is it 110?
Close.
Something like that?
Close. The reason I remember it is because it's so like simple. It's 123.
Yes.
123.
Arlington. Yes.
So
Yeah.
123A is how I remember it.
There you go.
In my head.
I never thought of it like that.
Yep.
But yes, so, and you'll never forget your first listing. But yeah, so it helps build your brand. It helps with brand awareness. But also now you have the market coming to you. So like I did an open house this past weekend. I had 16 unrepresented buyers come to me. So now I have 16 new leads, right?
Mm-hmm.
You talked about you need to build your database.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's 16 leads I get to put in my database. So, and then when you're done, you can ask the seller for a referral. When you have a buyer, all you could do is ask for a referral when you're done. There's no sign in the ground that other people are seeing. Other sellers in the area aren't seeing your name. You're not running into other buyers, right? Because you're helping that buyer find a specific house, which is what you should be doing. But a listing is something you can leverage for all the reasons I mentioned.
Yep.
And that's why you have to list to exist, because it just helps continue to build your business.
The other thing is you could carry 15, 20 listings at a time by yourself and manage that. You can't be running around with 20 different buyers in one shot. It just doesn't work like that. And service them all correctly.
Right.
It's not possible.
Although
However,
in this market, it's tough.
well,
In this market, it's tough because if you have a listing in this market, if you list a house in this market, you're doing like 10 showings a week,
yep.
right? So historically, yeah, you have a listing. It's great because, you know, it's your listing. You have it in contract for 6 months. You do a few showings a week. You have plenty of time to do other stuff. Nowadays, you get a listing. You dedicate all of your time that week to that listing, then it's sold, and then you move on to the next. So I don't know if you could handle.
You can't. No. I mean, unless they're very, very high end, and then it's just a different ball game altogether.
It's almost, actually, I'm thinking about what you said. In this market, I have like 15, 20 buyers I'm working with that I'm able to manage because it's pretty much nothing new is coming up. So like every week, you know, I'm not having to take them out to too many houses, but the listings are what's eating up a lot of time.
Now, if the market flips and there's a ton of listings out there and they want to go out and 10 different people want to go out with you in one
then
weekend,
you can't handle the buyers.
now you've got a problem, right?
Also, it's different. Sorry. It's because it's actually crazy. Yes, you've always listed because buyers are hard to manage. Listings, you can manage more of them. But in this market, it's flipped. Also, with the pandemic, it's flipped a little because it used to be if you had a buyer, you had to take them out nights and weekends. So there's only so much time to do it. But now everyone's working from home. There's a lot of buyers that are like, hey, man, I'm home. You know, let me know. It's fine. So you can actually take out buyers, you know, between 11 and 3 p.m. during the day. So I'm just thinking about it as we're talking. It actually is easier to manage buyers
right now
than it was traditionally.
Now, here's the other thing about buyers, right? I mean, and now correct me if you think I'm wrong or if you disagree, but in my opinion, being a listing agent is a business transaction. Mm-hmm. From the listing appointment, you're selling them, right? You get that listing. They want to see results. It's a business-oriented transaction. When you go shopping with someone to buy a house, I think a friendship forms in that process. I think you're probably more likely to develop a referral from a buyer than you are a seller. You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. A buyer, just like you said, when you take on a listing, you sit down with them initially for an hour to 2 hours. You have a nice conversation, right? And you get paperwork signed. From there, you do photos, and then from there, you start doing showings, and that's it. And then after the showings, you're providing feedback, but you're really not spending a lot of time with that seller. With the buyer, you're spending a ton of time with them. To your point, you're driving around, you're going to see houses with them. So you're walking through houses together. Every time you walk through a house, you're spending 10, 15 minutes with them. You're talking with them. Afterwards, you're talking about it. You're just spending much more time together. And that just the increase in time spent with each other facilitates a deeper relationship.
So most people start their career as a buyer's agent, and then they naturally progress into a listing agent. Now, what core competencies does someone need to have to be a strong listing agent?
Well, you need to know the market, right? You need to be knowledgeable on the market, on price points.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be knowledgeable in terms of what buyers are looking for.
When you say market, local market, correct?
Yeah, and just general. Yes, local market, local in that neighborhood, but also for us, it's important to know, like if you're selling a house in Massapequa, it's great to know Massapequa, but then Nassau County and Long Island overall too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in Long Island, it's local enough where you can even reference the whole island.
Right.
Right, but definitely the specific county and the
Now,
town.
what about macroeconomics?
Well,
So, like when we're on a listing appointment and we're having conversations about mortgage forbearance and the
mm-hmm.
Biden administration and what's to come, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having some kind of competency in macroeconomics, I think, helps strengthen our case when we're in these listing appointments. You agree?
I agree. Yeah, I agree. So I was actually thinking about this because Kristen, one of the members of our team, had to go on a listing appointment last night by herself, and I was trying to help her just get prepared for it. And I got to thinking that it all comes down to, and I think I mentioned this last week, the Jordan Belfort model of establish yourself as an expert in your field. If you do that off the bat, you automatically gain credibility. It's why, as the broker owner, when Emmett walks into a listing, he doesn't have to put on this great big presentation because he's the broker owner of Berkshire Hathaway Home Franchises, right? Yep. It's automatic credibility. So why?
He doesn't have to earn it.
Right. So getting back to the point. So for us, right, we're not the broker owner. So what's something that helps establish you as an expert in your field? Well, it's being knowledgeable in the macroeconomic market, right?
Yep.
Just talking about that stuff, that you're intelligent, you know what's going on in the economy, you know how all these variables are working together and the cause-effect relationship, that establishes you as an expert and a professional. And that's why it's very helpful and important.
Yeah, I think that to me is one of the biggest things, right? You need to know how we got to where we are and where we think it's going. And like you said, the cause and effect relationship of all these things intertwined, low interest rates, supply, demand, politics, SALT deduction, taxes. Yeah. You need to understand also the financial piece of it, right? Especially when you're talking to very high net worth people that own very expensive properties, right? What's your cost basis in this property? What are you into it for? What's the opportunity cost that if you sold this property that you could take that $5 million and go invest it here or there? Can you make 20% of that money? Because right now it's sitting in this property making you no money, right? So it's all these things really contribute at the end of the day to being a stronger and stronger, more well-rounded listing agent. And at the end of the day, the more competent you are, the higher the likelihood or the better the odds are in your favor that you're going to be able to walk into someone's door and walk out with signed paperwork.
That's a part of the business that we really take for granted too, just given our background in sales, is that, right, a lot of agents, they struggle with, how do I find a client, whether it be buyer or seller, but we're talking about listing client, right? They don't even know to hop on the phones. Then if you hop on the phones, well, how do you actually have that conversation to schedule an appointment, right? But then from there, once you go on the appointment, that's tough too. Like, think about a lot of agents, they're walking in on appointments. I can't even imagine what the hell what they're saying or what they're doing.
So for me, I can't relate to that because this is all I know. Like from when I was a kid, I was a salesman. I was telling my mom as to why I should, why we should do X, Y, and Z, why I should be playing this sport instead of that sport. I mean, to me, it comes very naturally. But the more and more we work with people, the more we realize it doesn't. It's not everybody's strength.
It took us time to develop the presentation we have now. It was developed over what we have now was probably developed over the course of 3 years, right? But so just think about, even if someone, forget about not having the sales skills, but like they don't even know what to talk. They don't have a presentation.
Well, I think it's
right?
Process of elimination. This is why I'm saying it takes 5 to 7 years to get really comfortable.
So we probably went on 3 years worth of listing appointments is what it took. And we were going on a good amount of listing appointments. Not like we were going on an appointment a month. So 3 years worth of listing appointments, probably over 100 listing appointments, definitely over 100 listing appointments. It took us to fine tune the current presentation. Now imagine you're an agent getting started, going on one appointment a month.
It takes a long time.
It'll take you 10 years to fine tune your.
It takes a long time. That's why you need to get on a team. You need to witness it and see it and digest it before you do it. There's a whole process. And there's a lot to learn. You need to understand what's happening around you, cause and effect relationships. Then you have to work on your sales skills. Listen, most people get into real estate. I don't know why they
think they're going to make big money.
They think they're going to get in, they're going to show houses, it's going to look like $1 million listing, and they're going to be a gazillionaire, and that's the end of it. But the reality of the situation is a very small percentage of the agents that are in the market are actually doing like 90% of the business, right? And why? Because that small percentage is the percentage that has sales skills. That's it.
Key.
That's it. That's all it comes down to.
You could do the first part, right? You could be really knowledgeable about the market and the economy and all that. But if you don't have sales skills,
if you don't have the ability to influence people and ask for the business at the end of the day, you have nothing. And this translates to all businesses, right? If you want to be a doctor, you want to be a good doctor, great. You might be the best doctor in the world. But if you are not a sales guy, and if you can't market your practice, you are not going to make it. Because there's lesser doctors that are not as good at the surgery, but they are really good at marketing.
Well, that's where, so you're a listing agent, you have a listing, you have a buyer, unrepresented buyer come through, right? You have basically 10 minutes, right, to show and sell them that house, but also 10 minutes to sell yourself so that if they don't want to buy that house, you can now pick them up as your client and help them buy something. There you go again.
I agree. So that's interesting, right? Like it comes down to sales. That's all it is.
How do you learn sales? Do you think anyone given enough work and effort can learn sales, or do you think it's something that, either you're born with or you're not?
I think some people are natural born salespeople. I think you can drop those natural born salespeople into any scenario and they will figure it out. Just with their natural born God-given talents. Some people are not afraid to talk to other people. They're very socially aware. And then I think there's a group of people that are not so talented but can learn. And then there's some people who just are not built for that kind of thing.
What does it take to learn? If you're one of the not talented people, is it is it role playing? Is it just getting your face beaten in over the course of 3 years? I mean, what would you say to someone who's like, can get there, is just not there yet? Like, how do they do it?
Study your scripts, know what the blueprint is, and then you need your 10,000 hours. You need 10,000 hours, your 10,000 at-bats, and that's when you'll get good at it.
Right.
You may never be as good as the guy, though, who just has the God-given gift to gab.
Like a Frederick Eklund.
Never.
Like I've never met him.
And I don't even know that he's a good sales guy. I just know he's a good entertainer. But here's the thing. If I put you on that same show, you might not be as entertaining.
Well,
you might be a better salesperson.
Right.
You don't know. But that was his route, right? His route was
he's comfortable in that role.
He's comfortable in that role. His life's on a grand stage, and now he's talking about instant credibility. That's how he gets to where he is.
He just opened up in Texas too, by the way. I don't know if you saw.
Just keeps going.
It's wild.
Keeps going. So, all right. So let's circle back. One last time we'll go through it. You need to have certain strengths as a listing agent in order to become a listing agent. You need to know how to sell, first and foremost. You need to have local market knowledge. You need to have macro knowledge. You need to be paying attention to the news and the things that are going on in Congress. You need to understand finance. You need to understand what people could do with the money that they have buried in a home. A home is essentially an asset. It's a part of someone's portfolio. So you're no different than a wealth manager to a certain extent, right? You need to be able to direct them how to what to best do with their money to maximize their return. And once you've got all these things learned and mastered, then you can come up with, a compelling argument to pitch to people, to have them work with you, whether it be on the buy side or the sell side. But you want to transition to the sell side after you're in the business for a certain period of time, correct?
Yeah, well, yes. You want to transition in that you're focused on getting listings, because if you're getting listings, the buyers will come. Like I said, because the buyers are going to come to see your listings. So you'll do the buyers too. If you focus on just the buyers, then how are you getting your listings?
Yeah.
You're not.
Right.
That's the answer. That's the thought process behind it.
Correct. All right. So that ends that discussion. Let's head over to the news because we're actually, believe it or not, 46 minutes in already.
Okay.
Went fast. All right. This one's interesting to me. Google searches reflect consumers' market angst. This is all real estate related. So Americans are increasingly turning to Google to find answers to their housing questions. The phrase, "When is the housing market going to crash?" has surged in Google searches by 2,450% in the last month. Consumers are also searching for information about why is the market so hot, doubling in the last week, and how much over the asking price should I offer on a home in 2021, which increased by 350% in Google searches that week.
So why is the market so hot, Ron?
So the market is so hot because there is absolutely no inventory. That's number one. But there's a big argument that this is not a bubble.
I would agree.
And they're arguing it's not a bubble because people have a lot of equity in their homes with market appreciation, and the fact that since 2008, 2009, there's been a lot of discrepancies with people having to put down a certain amount of money and they have to meet a lot of requirements, etc. The nation has 1.03 million homes available for sale, which is a record low. So nationally, there's a record low amount of homes for sale, and far from the peak of more than 4 million during the height of the last housing bubble in 2007 of July.
Right.
So there was 4 million back in 2007. There's 1.03 million now. According to NAR data, the total active listings were down 54% last week compared with a year ago.
Well, yes, but also that's a little bit misleading because last week was early April. The entire country was locked down.
Well, think about it. So I was actually going to say that. So it's down. It's down compared to last week. Oh,
last week a year
ago. But a year ago,
we were locked down.
Right.
So of course it was.
So it's lower. It's lower than it was a year ago.
Active listings?
Yes, total active listings were down 54% last week compared to a year ago. So in a locked down environment,
there was
had more
inventory.
listings than we do now.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty crazy.
That's sick.
Well, that's what's driving this market is supply demand.
Yep. Buyer demand remains high for a limited number of homes for sale. 42% of homes are selling for more than their list price at the start of April. So 42% of people are listing houses for more than they're supposed to sell. And still 42% of those homes are selling for more than their list price at the start of April, a 16% point increase compared to the same period a year earlier, according to housing data from Redfin.
So I don't think, just to talk, the other question in the article is when's the housing market going to crash, right? No one can predict the future, but I agree with you with what you said, is that this does not seem like it's a bubble. It does not look like the housing market's going to crash. The supply demand dynamics are going to eventually even out. Whether that's sooner or later, we'll have to see. And prices will level off. But really, in my mind, the only way this housing market crashes is if the dollar loses its status as the reserve currency of the world, because then the American economy crashes, and then the housing market crashes.
This is a good segue. So this is interesting. Foreign investors compete for U.S. suburban homes.
Right.
So, okay. On a global macroeconomic level, other countries are trying to figure out where to park their money and wealthy people in other countries, and they're looking at the housing shortage in America, and they think it's a good idea to buy residential property in America as an investment. Think about that. So foreign investment firms are reportedly making a big play for single-family homes in American suburbs. These overseas investment firms traditionally have targeted office buildings, hotels, and shopping centers internationally, but they are seeing promise in buying or building rental homes by the thousands throughout the U.S. The Wall Street Journal reports they're targeted suburban neighbor homes near big cities like Atlanta, Las Vegas, and Phoenix. Last month, Alliance SE, a German insurer, said it was investing to buy more than $4 billion of U.S. rental homes. Canada's public sector pension investment board, in partnership with Premium Partners LLC, is buying $700 million or around 2,000 U.S. homes. So let me ask you this, and it says foreign investors are being drawn to the single-family rental market for the same reasons that the U.S. investments are. They're taking notice of the desire for renters to have more space, access top suburban schools, and accessibility to suburban housing as the limited supply for new houses and high prices may be preventing from some being able to buy. So do you ever see a time in the future where you're trying to sell a house and not only are we selling it to these companies, but you living in your neighborhood in Massapequa, every other home is a corporate-owned home being rented out by some corporation?
So we spoke about this last week, and I think in Long Island, listen, maybe at some point, but in Long Island, it's going to happen. There's a lot of other places in the country where you're going to do that first before it happens in Long Island.
See, I disagree. I don't know if I disagree, but I feel like if you're going to buy real estate as a company, you want to be near a metropolitan area because that's where the jobs are, right?
Well, Las Vegas, Phoenix, they said.
So why wouldn't they want to come? I mean, obviously there's markets out there that have lower tax burdens and stuff like that. But even in those situations, like, do you think everything is going to be like an Avalon community, except homes? Like, if you want to get in that house, your neighbor, you need to rent it for $5,000 a month because XYZ Corporation owns it. And is every other house in the neighborhood going to be that in the future?
I don't think so. I mean, it may be in some neighborhoods, but I don't think so.
You don't think maybe if the wealth gap grows enough?
Well, so that brings up something interesting I want to talk about. So we talk about the wealth gap, right? Like this pandemic has actually widened the wealth gap, right? And we think about it in terms of people. Like you have the Jeff Bezoses, the Elon Musk, right? All the richest people in the world just becoming exponentially wealthier, and they have more money than any one person has ever had in history. And then you have the poorest who are really living on the government right now. But if you think about it in terms of, and this goes back to, are we in a bubble? Is the housing market going to crash? Think about that in terms of countries. The U.S. is the wealthiest country, right? Every country, and the reason all these foreign investors are coming to the U.S. because every major economy right now, every country has been completely wrecked by COVID. Their economies have been wrecked. Now, the U.S., I think it was more than 50% of all American adults have received at least one vaccine, right? That's because Pfizer, Moderna, these are American companies. This is where it's happening. Now, if you're in a third world country, you're not having a vaccine rollout like that.
That's a crazy point.
If you're in other countries, even like Canada's still locked down, Europe's still struggling, even all these other countries are struggling just to get back on their feet. So the U.S. is going to get on its feet first. The U.S. now has more money pouring into it from investors and everything else, right? And all these other countries are still struggling. So I think if you think about it in terms of the wealth gap between countries, the U.S. is going to continue to
have money pour into it from all over the world.
Now, the only reason that changes is if the U.S. government
and if the U.S. if the American workforce gets back to work faster than other countries, they're able to pay their bills.
The only thing in my mind, so the only thing that stops that is socialism in the U.S. government. If that gets to a tipping point where we start to really become a socialist country, then at that point, yes, everything's crashing. But if that does not happen, I have a very positive outlook.
You're very bullish.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and there's still a lot of problems. There's still a lot of things we have to be concerned about, right? So I'm not saying it's all blue skies and butterflies.
Well, think about this. So here's another article. It kind of segues right into it, right? In some cities, price appreciation outpaces salaries.
Right.
So the appreciation that people are making on homes is outpacing their salaries. So with home prices surging, owners in the same areas earned more via price appreciation over the last year from their than from their salary. According to a new study from Point Two Homes, an online real estate marketplace, in 2020, the net increase in home prices outstripped homeowners' salaries in 15 of the largest U.S. metros, with the difference ranging from a mere $38 to up to nearly $60,000. So if this also is going to affect affordability.
Mm-hmm.
If homes are appreciating at a pace that outpaces people's salaries by double,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to be able to afford homes. If that's the case, these companies are going to come in, they're going to buy the houses, they're going to put the people in the houses, and the people are going to rent.
Right, but the numbers still have to make sense. And listen, that's just logical, right? I mean, housing prices have gone up in most areas over 10% year over year. Have salaries gone up 10% year over year? No.
No, salaries remain generally the same.
Right.
So here's something interesting. There's a New York bill, and it's requiring an explanation for co-op buyers being rejected. So in New York, it's been history is, and the way it is right now, if a co-op denies you for any reason, they simply do not have to give you any kind of explanation. There's a bill being passed right now that actually requires them to explain why.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is your thought on this whole situation?
I support it. I mean, listen, you should if you're going to deny if a co-op board is going to deny a potential buyer,
Mm-hmm.
then you should always operate, in my mind, ethically, morally, legally. So if you're going to deny someone, there shouldn't be anything shady there, and if there's nothing shady there, you should have no problem giving a reason. The only, in my mind, the only reason you have a problem telling someone why they're denied is because it was immoral or unethical or illegal.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, I think there should be transparency in the process. I think that if you're getting denied, you should know why. And I don't know why the owners of these co-ops aren't in favor of that as well, because believe it or not, co-ops have an average much lower price point than a condo for this exact reason, because most people refuse to buy a co-op because they don't want to get tied up with people on that board that they may have an issue with that might hold them up from selling it or what have you, right? So it says the gap between the co-op and the condo values continues to swell in New York City. In the first quarter of this year, the average price per square foot for a condominium apartment was 1,714 square feet compared with 1,054 for a co-op. So, I mean, if they did take this away and it became something that, they had to actually provide an explanation, you'd probably see a lot less people get denied.
The only reason you should be able to deny someone for real estate is a financial reason. If they can afford to pay the mortgage and the taxes, or, whatever other fees are there.
Completely agree.
Then that's fine.
Completely agree. Mortgage rates back near 3%. They're going back down again in the short term. But the article does write, despite the pause in mortgage rate raises recently, we expect them to increase modestly for the remainder of this year. So the general consensus is that they are going to go up, which is going to hurt, erode buyers' borrowing power a little bit. The marijuana business is fueling real estate demand. So crazy story about this. Have you ever been to a state since marijuana has been legalized and seen what that's like?
I don't know. No.
Okay.
No.
So I go out to Colorado like 7, 8 years ago. And I have a friend out there. The friend is in the marijuana business. He was growing weed and selling it because at the time, this was not taboo out there. This was like what everyone was doing. Everyone was jumping on the bandwagon. It was like the gold rush of 1949, right? So We go out there. We drive into a business park. I get out of the car
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of a business park. So think like you're in the middle of like Crossways Park, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get out the car, all you smell is weed.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, what is going on?
Mm.
Every building there had these insane farms of marijuana,
Mm-hmm.
just trees and trees and trees, and they take up a lot of space. So now this is going to be legalized, right?
So it's
already
basically
legalized
like
in New
indoor
York.
farmland.
It's indoor farmland, and that is going to eat up warehouse space.
Mm-hmm.
It's between Amazon and marijuana farms, because the weed is all grown hydroponically now. They're not going to do it outdoors,
It doesn't make sense to do it that way.
right? So, but they use a ton of electricity. They have like all the lamps and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very interesting. You know, all those traditional warehouse spaces where you got, you know, people operating businesses that need storage
Mm-hmm.
for something is going to turn into that. It's a different world, man. But they say that's it's changing. It's changing everything around the country with regards to demand, because now all of a sudden, I mean, every state who has an issue that needs to raise money
Mm-hmm.
is legalizing marijuana.
Right.
Vacant commercial buildings to be converted to affordable housing. I don't like this.
And marijuana farms.
I don't like. Well, yes, and marijuana farms. That's a good point. You could probably grow a marijuana farm in an office environment, but a lot of these buildings that we see now, they're going to have a lot of empty office space. We talked about this last week. I thought it was interesting. There's an article. A lot of it's going to be converted into affordable housing. If it is converted into affordable housing, a lot of these business communities that you see specifically in like the New York City area, or, you know, like Hop Hog has a big business community, Hicksville, right? Hicksville's more manufacturing though, right?
Hicksville's more manufacturing.
Well, the traditional business buildings might be turned into housing complexes.
But the reason that it has a possible negative effect is because on taxes, because those
Yes.
landlords, the affordable housing is not, you know, it's going to have lower taxes, but it still needs to be paid for. So it's usually the surrounding area that's going to make up the difference.
Yep. Some states will pay home buyers student loans. You see this?
No.
This is a new thing now. Illinois and Maryland recently launched a Smart Buy programs that will pay off student loan for young adults who get a mortgage in their state.
I don't understand that. Why? Because
Yeah.
they're paying real estate taxes.
They want people
then?
living there. They want people living there.
They're
I don't
trying to get
understand.
people to move there.
Yep. There's already things in place though. So for example, Illinois is offering to pay up to $40,000 student loans for student loan balance that is 15% of the home purchase price, whichever is lower. Forbes.com reports on the program. The program is also offering up to $5,000 towards the down payment or closing costs, but the purchase price of the home is capped depending upon the geographic location and some other factors. The upper limit is between $325,000 and $500,000. Isn't Chicago already in like some serious debt?
I think most states are.
Yeah, I mean, how
I don't know. We should look that up, actually.
That's kind of crazy though. I mean, if there's a program like that in New York, I mean, I paid off my student loan, so it doesn't help me, but it's something that, you know, we could offer out to buyers who have student loan debt.
Yeah.
That's it though, Mike. That's it for the news. Good little discussion. Anything else to add?
No. I think we covered it all. Happy to be back for a third week in a row. Well, but if this wasn't a record week, we'll set the record next week. and
Every
the
week,
after.
every week going forward, it's a record week. That's it. All right, guys. If you want to contact us, you can give us a call at 516-888-9711. We're always recruiting agents here at the Pesce Lanzillotta team. Our email is info@pl-team.com, and our website is www.pl-team.com if you want to get in touch with us. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.